Mistakes that made me a millionaire. How to transform setbacks into extraordinary success. Written by Kim Perell. Success rarely collapses from a single bad decision. It erodes through everyday habits that feel safe, sensible, and even smart. You say yes to one more month in a role you've outgrown. You stick to a plan because changing course looks like weakness. You trust a dazzling resume over the quiet red flags in your gut. And when results dip, you double down on spreadsheets instead of relationships. The pattern is familiar because it's human. The trick is learning to spot and replace the habits that quietly stall your growth. In this summary, you'll learn momentum-killing mistakes and how to fix them with practical moves. Letting fear of failure steer decisions, staying too long, clinging to rigid plans, and hiring for polish over substance. You'll also learn step-by-step fixes for pivot mistakes, exit missteps, hiring errors, and relationship blind spots. Let's begin by tackling the biggest stall point: waiting to feel perfectly ready. Number 1. Waiting for perfect readiness before taking action stalls progress. The first mistake is simple: waiting to feel perfectly prepared before you move. Readiness is rarely a destination you arrive at. It's a state you grow into by acting. Perfect conditions almost never appear. The cost of waiting is lost time, stale energy, and missed compounding gains from small, early moves. There are 4 main blockers to be aware of: perfectionism, procrastination, paralysis, and pessimism. Perfectionism stalls progress by making you wait until every little detail is correct. If this sounds like you, then try applying the 70% solution. If you have roughly 70% of the information, resources, or confidence, take the first step and refine with real feedback. Great outcomes come from launching, listening, and iterating, not polishing forever. Procrastination hides in the when-then loop. When life calms down, then I'll start. Break it with simple guardrails. Each evening, pick tomorrow's most important task and do it first. Protect focus by silencing notifications in fixed blocks and working in a quiet space. Turn big projects into smaller parts so momentum is achievable. 1 chapter a month beats an unfinished manuscript. Paralysis comes from overwhelm and fear. Most fears never land. In a Penn State study, participants logged worries for 10 days and tracked outcomes for 30. 91% didn't happen, and a third of the rest turned out better than expected. When stuck, ask what advice you'd give a friend, what the best outcome could be if you act, and which regret would be worse, trying and failing or never trying. Watch for choice overload and information bloat. Too many options and too much data make decisions harder. Pessimism rides the brain's negativity bias, where one criticism outweighs many positives. Don't treat every thought as a fact. Notice unhelpful ones, replace them with a useful belief, and spend up to a minute picturing a successful action. With practice, your thinking patterns will change. Remember, action creates readiness. Start with what you have, move at 70%, and let experience, not doubt, shape the next step. Number 2. Trying to do it all alone undermines performance and trust. The lone genius myth is appealing, but doing everything yourself burns hours, breeds avoidable errors, and limits growth. Make help part of how you operate, early and openly. Real scale comes from adding strengths you don't have yet. Finance, to guard margins. technology to solve and automate, and sales to build partnerships and revenue. There are 4 fears that are stopping you from asking for help. Fear of judgment keeps capable people quiet. Asking can feel like admitting you're not ready, yet the right people read it as a commitment to the best outcome. This anxiety often starts early, when public correction teaches us to hide questions. In a U.S. poll of 1,000 adults, it ranked as the top reason people avoid asking for help. Treat asking as strength, not exposure. Fear of imposing convinces you others will be bothered. Declining offers or never making a simple request closes doors you never test. The brief discomfort of asking fades quickly, while missed chances linger. Most people enjoy recommending, introducing, or opening a door, if you give them the chance. Fear of vulnerability pushes struggles off stage, which isolates you and slows progress. Seeing weaknesses as bad blocks the improvements that matter, like making key hires that cover your gaps. Appropriate openness, especially from leaders, builds trust, improves collaboration, and strengthens teams. When you're real about needs, others feel safe to contribute where you're weaker. Finally, fear of rejection stops the ask before it's made. Rejection stings, but persistence can be rewarding. Think of no as information rather than a verdict. Treat asking as a skill. Try using the simple triple tap technique when asking for help. Reach out, follow up again, then move on. Collaboration is an advantage. Name the fear, make the ask, build the team. Number 3. Letting fear of failure steer decisions freezes momentum and growth. Ambition stalls when fear of failure makes the decisions. That mistake narrows options, delays action, and blocks the learning that leads to success. Here's what's happening on a biological level. The amygdala triggers the same alarm for imagined threats as for real ones, so avoiding risk can feel wise even as it freezes progress. So what can you do? First, understand the fear. Write what you're afraid of, why now, what it reminds you of, and the story you've built around it. Second, acknowledge it. Name the specific fear and ask whether it's factually true. Trying to suppress fear makes it louder, while labeling it makes it more manageable. Finally, move through it. Act despite the feeling. Expect critics, and value the courage to be in the arena over standing on the sidelines. Upgrade your inner voice, because self-talk sets your pace. Replace the critic with a deliberate inner cheerleader and regularly practice this simple exercise. List 5 of your qualities, 5 positive reasons your goal will work, and 5 things you're grateful for. When uncertainty is high, include intuition with your analysis. Research shows gut feel can prompt timely decisions when information is overloaded. Create space to notice how options feel, and use that signal alongside experience and logic. Remember, failure is part of the process. Early SpaceX launches exploded before breakthroughs followed. In 1997, Kobe Bryant shot 4 overtime air balls and treated it as material to learn from. Michael Jordan missed over 9,000 shots, lost nearly 300 games, and 26 times missed a game winner, and used those misses to improve. Don't let fear of failure stop you from your own improvements. Number 4. Staying too long in safe roles wastes time and potential. Lingering feels polite at a party and safe at work, but in careers and relationships, it burns the scarcest resource you have: time. The mistake is staying long after growth has stopped. We tell ourselves we're being loyal, prudent, or indispensable. In reality, job security is fragile, no one is irreplaceable, and comfort can harden into complacency. 5 common traps keep people stuck. First is the money trap. A steady paycheck feels protective, yet people who switch jobs see average pay jumps near 9.7%, while stayers average about 5%. Second is fear of the unknown. We prefer guarantees, but change is the only constant, and uncertainty often hides opportunity. Third is loyalty drift, where allegiance to a boss or team eclipses allegiance to your own growth. Fourth is identity lock-in, when title equals self, leaving feels like erasing yourself. And fifth is the comfort zone, a low-stress, predictable state. Performance actually peaks just beyond it, where challenge stretches you without overwhelm. If you feel comfortable yet restless and not learning, you're stuck there. Leaving well is a skill. Build an exit ramp. Research the market, refresh your materials, and set a runway. If you're testing a new venture, use a threshold. When your side income reaches a defined percentage of salary, commit. A 1-year success plan helps. Write a clear 12-month vision, reverse engineer milestones, tackle the hardest task first, and pick an accountability partner. Aim to be learning or earning. If you're doing neither, it's time to move. Staying can work if you refuse to stand still. Rotate into new roles, expand scope, and keep leveling up every few years. Staying at a company is fine. Staying in the same job without growth is stagnation. Remember, new doors open when you choose to close the old ones. Number 5. Refusing to pivot when facts change destroys competitive advantage. Plans age quickly. Markets, technology, and customer behavior don't wait for your roadmap. The real mistake is clinging to an original plan after the signals say it's time to change. Businesses that endure treat adaptability as a performance skill, not an afterthought. The playbook is simple. Treat a plan as a hypothesis and update it when reality shifts. A practical way to do that is the 3-step loop of rethink, reorganize, and react. First, step back and analyze the situation without bias toward the original plan. Then, decide the best course and reorganize people and resources to match it. Finally, implement promptly. Timely action matters, and delaying decisions can deepen setbacks. There are 5 common pivots you'll face. A product pivot changes what you offer when sales stall or feedback says the fit is off. For example, Slack grew by turning an internal tool into the product. A market pivot answers shifts in platforms, consumer trends, or new tech such as AI, so you meet customers where they've moved. A people pivot upgrades the team or leadership to match the company's next stage. A pricing pivot adjusts what you charge when your inputs or audience change. Uber did this by adding a lower-cost option beyond black cars. Finally, a customer pivot targets a different buyer who values what you're building, like how Shopify moved from selling snowboards to serving merchants. And remember, even giants changed course along the way. YouTube began as video dating, Amazon as a bookstore, and Starbucks as a beans retailer. 2 forces block timely pivots: fear of being wrong and ego tied to the first plan. Investors and teams don't penalize learning, they penalize rigidity. Ask what would make you change course, define those thresholds now, and communicate clearly why the new path wins. History rewards movers. Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy in 2010 with roughly $1 billion in debt. Netflix adapted. Make adaptation your edge. Pick your next test, set a date, and move while you still have options. Number 6. Choosing sparkle over substance in hires damages revenue and culture. Hiring or partnering on gut-level chemistry can feel exciting, but it's also where many careers get bruised. The mistake is mistaking polish, charisma, or shared interests for genuine fit. First impressions act like trailers. They spotlight strengths and hide gaps. Add urgency, a bias toward people who look like us or know who we know, and the habit of avoiding confrontation, and small warning signs snowball into missed deadlines, strained clients, and a demoralized team. The costs are real. Nearly half of new hires wash out within 18 months. Replacing a senior leader can run to twice their salary before you even count lost time and trust. Poor hiring is tied to about 60% of startup failures. Money hurts, but momentum and morale take the deeper hit. People work longer, deliver less, and stop believing. Avoid some predictable pitfalls. First, the perfect on paper trap. Go 3 layers deeper than the resume. Use open questions that reveal values and judgment. Ask about their toughest manager, a failure and what changed, what colleagues wish they'd improve, what you'd only learn after 3 months, and who they admire and why. Listen for specifics, deliverables, benchmarks, tactics, and the thinking behind them. Second, pressure hires. Pause, zoom out, and decide by the role's highest standards, not by relief. Third, the bias blind spot. Enforce a structured scorecard, proven productivity, adaptability, alignment with core values, and leadership level. And get an independent second opinion. Finally, use your intuition. If something feels off, slow down and look again. Watch for early signals of a bad pick. Bold promises without details, missed or late meetings and projections, slow responses, and defensiveness when probed. When they show up, address them quickly, set clear expectations, and hold the line. If performance doesn't turn, act decisively and own the outcome with your team. The key lesson is simple. People who promise big rarely outperform, and warning signs don't repair themselves. The sooner you act, the less you lose. Number 7. Treating business as impersonal weakens trust, loyalty, and outcomes. The costly mistake is treating work like a vending machine. Money in, deliverables out, and forgetting the human being on the other side. Deals, hires, renewals, and integrations all rise or fall on connection. When relationships are an afterthought, growth stalls, trust erodes, and even great products struggle to land. Business is personal because people make decisions with goals, fears, and preferences, not spreadsheets alone. Research backs it up. Roughly 3 in 4 employees who experience empathy from leaders report being more engaged. That energy shows up in revenue, retention, and referrals. Brands that lead with authenticity prove the point. A relationship-first beauty company built a community of about 4 million followers and grew to roughly $300 million in annual sales by answering customers personally, celebrating their milestones, and keeping promises. Technology can streamline work, but it also flattens nuance. Slack threads and dashboards can't replace eye contact. Treat conferences, kickoffs, and quarterly reviews as relationship accelerators. Share a little of yourself, ask about what matters to the other side, and close meetings with clear commitments. Your behavior is your brand. Do what you say you will do. Every time. Make connections systematic. Invest time with your 5 most important partners and teammates. Lead with curiosity about their goals and constraints. Listen actively, phone away, and reflect back what you heard. Find real common ground to build relatability. Practice empathy. Consider how decisions land for them before you push forward. This simple operating system, investment, curiosity, active listening, relatability, empathy, turns transactions into long-term alliances. Track returns 2 ways. Yes, measure ROI. Also measure return on relationship, renewals, referrals, response times, community engagement, and unsolicited praise. Small gestures move those numbers. Timely thank yous, specific compliments, remembering key dates, showing up when it's inconvenient. The lesson is clear. Data shows what's profitable, but relationships decide what becomes possible. Prioritize people, and the numbers follow. Conclusion. In this summary to Mistakes That Made Me a Millionaire by Kim Perell, you've learned that success scales when you replace quiet, everyday blockers with clear, repeatable behaviors. You saw how acting before you feel perfectly ready builds momentum, how asking for help beats lone wolf heroics, and how fear of failure shrinks once you name it and move anyway. You learned why leaving on time protects your future, why agile teams pivot on evidence rather than ego, how rigorous hiring prevents costly missteps, and how relationships, not dashboards, carry deals across the line. Put simply, choose action, curiosity, and people first. Okay, that's it for this summary. We hope you enjoyed it. If it adds any value to your life, then share with others and subscribe for upcoming summaries. Thank you.